During the late 1980s, Doctor Who went through a creative renaissance. There are stories in season 25 and especially in 26, which if the BBC had been behind the show, could have won the series a whole new audience. Which makes you wonder exactly what Silver Nemesis is doing at this point in the series. It has interesting ideas, a 17th century sorceress who can travel through time, the forming of a new Nazi empire. Unfortunately, it just seems like somebody wrote down a lot of things that would have looked good in the adverts and just tried to build a story around them. What follows is a series of set pieces and rather unfunny comedy routines. One which involves the Doctor and Ace managing to get within shouting distance of a woman who is quite obviously supposed to be the Queen. I didn't realise security at Windsor Castle was so lax. But then again, nobody in this story seems to be awake. Nobody seems to notice a huge silver spaceship flying near Windsor Castle. No one seems to notice when a couple of characters in 17th century clothes materialise in a cafe and proceed to smash a window. The police never send anyone to investigate when 3 of their officers are overcome by gas and disappear. This story does actually have 2 genuinely talented people in its cast, Fiona Walker and Anton Diffring. Unfortunately, Fiona Walker's Lady Painfort is given every "I'm so evil" cliché in the book, whereas Anton Diffring's Deflowers is given more or less nothing to do. The big fight scene between the Cybermen and the neo-Nazis occurs at the beginning of episode 2, which means that the survivors, Defleurs and his secretary, have nothing to do except wander around the countryside, asking the Cybermen if they're familiar with Wagner. Oh, and Defleurs gets cybernised by the Cybermen, but then he apparently gets better again. Lady Painfort travels from the 17th century with the help of a mathematician who predicts when a comet launched into space by the Doctor will land. Presumably he also predicts the fact that the calendars are going to change. Yes, the Doctor launched a comet into space containing what is apparently some ancient Gallifreyan artifact which could be used as a terrible weapon. Ancient Gallifreyan weapon is being sought by an old enemy of the Doctor. It then eventually destroys them. Doesn't that sound a bit like Remembrance of the Daleks to you? And then there's the Cybermen. When they were first created in the 1960s by Dr. Kit Pedler, they were a nightmare vision of what human beings may one day turn into. By Silver Nemesis, everything that made them scary as a concept or a villain is long forgotten. They are now just cartoon robots, who are clearly there for the Transformers generation. They spend their time being outwitted by the human characters, and hasn't anyone noticed how it looks like they seem to have been prepared for a game of cricket they were maybe planning later on? 6 years previously, the Cybermen had returned at their most terrifying best. They're now back to the position they were in Revenge of the Cybermen. The difference is that Revenge of the Cybermen was in on the joke, whereas Silver Nemesis clearly thinks the Cybermen are the scariest thing since British rail sandwiches. Even Ace seems terrified of them for no apparent reason. The comet, incidentally, circles the Earth once every 25 years, and it's also in a decaying orbit. Sorry?
The rotational period of a planetary body is determined by whatever it is in orbit around. Therefore, if it moves closer to the object, it will need to increase its rotational speed to avoid being sucked into it.
Thank you, Professor Wolfkins. There is a rather rushed ending. We're hit over the head with a sudden revelation that the Doctor is not actually who we thought he was. Yes, Lady Painfort has information about him which could change the whole course of the series. Unfortunately, nobody seems to be interested. It's made pretty clear that Lady Painfort has managed to go mad in the space of a few minutes. She throws herself into the spacecraft, and it's then revealed that she was one with the Nemesis, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I did eventually manage to find out from a textbook about the series that she was actually vaporised by the spacecraft's defensive shield. That's never explained in the actual episode. Also, there is an intriguing question that's left unanswered. The Nemesis changes its shape at the behest of its owner, which in this case is the Doctor, and in this case it's Retribution, which makes you wonder if the Doctor has been harbouring some secret desire for revenge on the Cybermen, maybe for the death of so many human beings, or maybe it's something more personal. He wants revenge for Adric. We never find out, because the final episode seems to be more interested in faffing about with an unfunny comedy routine involving some big-name guest star who no one has ever heard of. If you want to watch a Cyberman story from the 20th Century series, then you're better off with Earthshock, or perhaps go back further, The Invasion or Tomb of the Cybermen. Silver Nemesis, however, is the weak link in an otherwise strong season.